Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for CSI, and this is case file 418. So I've decided I'm going to use the Cocoa Vanilla Storyteller for this, and I've got myself a couple of photos. So if you've done CSI before, you know that there'll be an image, some colours and a list of evidence and a testimony. The testimony for this month's case file is about women's friendship, or National Women's Friendship Month, and I wanted to document my friendship with the two ladies in the photograph. So that is where the inspiration for this started. I also remembered we were all wearing navy, and I thought it would go perfectly with the colours that were as part of this month's case file. So that's where the starting point came from, and this is Storyteller from Cocoa Vanilla Studio, as I mentioned, and I've used quite a bit of this before, and so I'm looking at what I've got left. You might have noticed that the paper I picked at the very back is one that's literally looks like it's been watercoloured with lots of different colours. Now it's got quite a bit of yellow and green in it. Now yellow isn't in the colours on the case file, so I've actually covered the centre of it up with another pattern paper that I've cut to A4 size. It has got some crosses on one corner in different colours. That's going to be covered by the photo at the bottom left, so I'm not concerned about that. I also found a strip of a checkered, like plaid type paper, and I'm going to add a strip either side of this central piece. Now the centre piece does look white, but it actually has a very fine grid to it. You may see that in the close-ups later on, but I'm playing around with the title and with the flowers. I didn't realise how many flowers I still had left for this range, which is perfect. So I can use lots of pinks, reds and blues, which definitely goes with the colours for this. And I'm looking at going across the bottom, and I'm also looking at going underneath the other photograph. They are slightly different, the photos, and I'm just looking at the evidence there on the list. So I've cleared the decks a little, and I'm going to stick this piece of paper down. So there's all the stripes. I obviously don't want to use the yellow particularly, so I'm going to stick this piece in the centre and add the strips either side. So I've taken it away and I've sewn down both outer edges of this on my sewing machine, and I've actually done a stitch I didn't even know it could do. It's a fancy stitch, which is not normally what I would pick, but it looks a little bit like leaves, and I thought it would look quite cute with the amount of flowers that I'm going to add to this. So I haven't put the tape right to the edges because I want to tuck this plaid strip in, and in it is all the colours. So I feel like it kind of brings everything together a little bit, because obviously now I've got red at one side and blue at the other. And I feel this little strip is really going to help. The other strip on the other side is very narrow because that's literally all I had left of this paper. But once I've given it a bit of a rough up, it will be fine and I'll be able to stick it in place. So there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First of all, you saw me bring in a list. This is the evidence that Debbie works really hard to put together these case files, so they're a real inspiration and they really get you using your stash in maybe a different way. And I've looked down the list because I want to try and incorporate quite a few of the elements on the layout. So plaid was one of them. Grid pattern is another, even though you can't see it very well at the moment. Stencils another, enamel dots, tags, jewels, circles, stitching, which I've used. Buttons is something else that's on my mind I'm going to use. So it does make you combine different stash together in a completely different way. There is a design team, there is a Facebook group, and there's also, we're on Instagram as well, and you'll find lots and lots of inspiration. There are 2 of the case files every month, and half the team works on one, half the team works on the other, and I really would recommend you check them out. And if you'd like to try and use up some stash, I think it's absolutely perfect for that, so do check us out. So you can see that the layout is progressing in front of you. I've put a couple of layers of paper behind each photograph, and now I'm starting to think about the title placement. Now, Love This Story was part of the chipboard for this Storyteller range, and I'd never used it, and I thought it was a little bit big, but actually I feel like it fits really well down the centre of this page. So I've just come in with my distresser now. I'm going to distress the layers, brush off all the bits, and I'm going to stencil onto this, and this is saltwater taffy distress oxide, and I'm just using a brush, and it's not very dark, but it will be enough on the background just to add a little bit to stop it looking so plain. And stencil was another thing on the challenge list, and I may not have brought this in had it not been on the list. So I'm just adding a little bit of grid pattern on top of the grid paper, obviously, just either side of the photographs, just to break up the white a little bit. It's very similar coloured ink to the colour that I've stitched down the edges, so I quite like the way that looks. I just keep adding little bits, and because I'm not using the full stencil each time, it doesn't matter. I'm just using little patches of it, so you can't tell that I've moved it around so much. So I'm just going to clear the decks a little bit, and I will start to think about sticking everything down. I tend to use double-sided tape rather than wet glue when I can, because it takes me a bit to make any sort of decision, and sometimes I take things apart and reposition them a little. So that's the photo for the top, quite pleased with that, and these are the ones for the bottom. So the idea of this case file is to talk about women's friendship, and the two ladies in those photographs are my oldest friends. They both have the same profession as me, and that's how we know each other. And well, one of them I've known since I was 18, the other one I think I may have been 22. And here we were, and those photos were only taken last year at my daughter-in-law's hen do. And I took my besties with me to make it a much more enjoyable time. So what I'm doing with this photograph is I'm actually going to create a little bit of a pocket on the back, because I want to actually journal about both of them. So at the moment I've die cut 2 tags, and I'm going to add white to the back of both of them, and I'm going to journal about how we know each other and some of the ups and downs along the way, mainly children. So I'm just creating a little pocket behind that photo. I just used a bit of red tape around the edge, and then literally a piece of copy paper, because I don't need it to be very thick, but I want it to be a pocket so those tags don't drop through or get stuck anywhere. So I will add the journaling at the very end off camera. So love this story. I've actually stuck down the centre now on top of the stenciling, and I like the way that looks. I've brought in the rest of the embellishments that are pretty much the right colourways for this, and I'm going to start to actually finish off the layout. So embellishing is my favourite bit, so I always mess about a little bit. I faff, as I would call it, so don't be surprised if I carry on doing that. I really like that word banner, but I decided it was such a big title, I didn't actually need another set of words so close to it, so I decided that actually I'd rather have just the flowers there. The little bit above the top photo there, that half circle that says love this. And I've decided actually I might add some of the butterflies too. So I've just put them in the bottom right hand corner for me to come back to when I've got everything else into position. Don't really want to overload the layout, and I'm very conscious that I am adding quite a lot of stuff to this, but I'm getting the vibe that I like the way it's going. So I'm having just a quick look, getting the flower cluster the way I want it at the bottom. And it occurs to me that actually the journaling piece there, it's just going to have a little bit like who, what, where, when on there, is actually white on white. So I'm also thinking about actually I might want to add a piece of pattern paper behind that just to make that pop a little, and I think I'll come to that a bit later. Now I mentioned buttons were on the evidence list. There are actually some chipboard and die cut buttons in this range, which makes me think this range was absolutely perfect to choose for this case file, that it was meant to be essentially. And I'm actually just checking out the last few bits just to make sure I've got everything included. There's another circle there that I quite like, and it says moments in time. Circles were also on the list, so that works really well. I've stuck it down all off camera. You didn't need to see me do that, and I brought in a selection of enamel dots, and I'm going to add some to the centres of the flowers. I'm very conscious even though I've used foam patterns on the flowers, I feel like it needs a little bit more, and because they're shiny, it adds another dimension as well. I've added a little heart to the circle on the left photo, and I've added a little circle to the word at the top of the right photo as well, both in a pale pink, which also fits very well. So I'm just going to bring in these last hearts and see if I can get one to fit in the centre of the camera. I'm very aware that it was quite black, So that's all the dimension. I'm just going to tick down all the things that I've used. Really pleased with how much evidence I have used. Here's the finished layout. Thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you like it. Please subscribe to my channel. Do check out CSI on Facebook and Instagram, because the twice monthly challenges are really worth taking part in, and there's prizes as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you here again real soon. Bye for now.